Welcome and thank you all for joining us for this special series of the Crexi Podcast, an insider's look at all things commercial real estate. I'm your host, Ashley Kopovich, Director of Partnerships at Crexi. And this is the Women of Influence series, delivering next-level insights and expertise live from GlobeSt's Multifamily Fall Event in 2024. Today, we are thrilled to sit down with Emily Ramey, Vice President of Green Rock. A little bit about our guest. Emily brings nearly a decade of PACE finance experience to Green Rock. She started her renewable energy journey at a North Bay solar company and developed an expertise centered on commercial real estate finance, program oversight, and government affairs. For many years prior to PACE, Emily worked in marketing and business development within the energy and utility sector. After graduate school, Emily began her professional career in nonprofit development, serving a range of social and environmental missions with various organizations throughout the West. She earned an MS and a BS in Applied Arts and Sciences from SFSU and SDSU, respectively, including international study at the University of South Australia, Adelaide, and Lincoln University, Christchurch, New Zealand. Emily, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Ashley. I'm happy to be here.
We're really excited to have you. So I know we just dove into your background, but give us, in your own words, how you got started in commercial real estate and give our listeners a little bit of insight into who you are.
Terrific. I sort of switched careers, I would say 3 to 4 years ago, into commercial real estate and finance specifically. I have been in the PACE finance world for about a decade, so that makes me a dinosaur. And mostly on the government affairs side. PACE is a long-term fixed rate financing for commercial construction finance, and I can talk about those applications later, but there's a big public policy side to that. So most of my work in the CPACE lending space was in government affairs. But I had an opportunity to switch to commercial real estate and finance based on one of my greatest bosses who saw the ability for me to originate and said, go for it. And I said, why not?
I love that. Okay, perfect. So we'll talk a little bit about mentors and things like that, but obviously your boss seeing this in you naturally led you to commercial real estate. Mm-hmm. Talk to us a little bit about some lessons that you've learned, either now that you're in the CRE space or maybe from your starting years. Give us a little bit of insight there. Favorite lessons that you've learned throughout your career.
Sure. There are many. I think looking back on this most recent pivot at my stage in my career and having done, my background is in natural resource conservation, working in nonprofit development, kind of moving into the energy sector and now commercial real estate. Wow, what a array. But my path actually sort of makes sense. It's a meandering one. And looking back, many of the most recent lessons are to remain humble and to ask for help, to look at the people that are role models and approach them and introduce yourself and learn about what they do and how engaging they are and available for coffee, lunch, as far as they want to go, and just really try to emulate what they're doing. Both women and men have been very helpful in this process. And so remaining humble and, seeking out that mentorship, whether it's sort of informal or more formal, has been really, really helpful.
I love that. You hit on a lot of different points there. I love the be humble, right? You've had a lot of successes throughout your career, so staying humble, I think, is really important, but then also picking a mentor and then emulating what they're doing. So tell us, now that you're in the position and are very successful, are there things that you do on a day-to-day basis, any habits, whether that's within the workspace, within a personal life, like a yoga or meditation, that, kind of keep you on the train and maybe that our listeners should emulate?
Sure. So I try to be consistent. I try to take care of myself, whether that's using my stand-up desk more versus just parking it seated, at my desk every morning. I try to, the consistency piece is key. When I make a commitment, be there for all the obligations, whether boring, whether seemingly, not so important. If that's committee work, through NAOP or CREW or some of the other industry associations. Be consistent when you make a commitment, show up, give it your all, be present, and try to do those, simple kind of life adjustment things that really do make a difference. Like I said, the stand-up desk, it's simple, but it actually is pretty effective. Do your walks in the middle of the day. And always, I think with that humbleness in mind, be open to sort of the learning opportunities that present themselves along the way, even when it's uncomfortable. There are many scenarios where, especially not having a degree in finance or commercial real estate, but especially the finance piece, I basically am an empty, a clean slate, an open canvas, a clean canvas, in that I don't know a lot about what I'm hearing, at least in the beginning, and really asking questions and being honest about, could you explain that more? Or, I don't have a degree in finance. Could you talk more about what that actually means, what that calculates, what's the value of that? And people are always happy to explain. In fact, I think it makes them feel good. And I'm, of course, hungry for information. And so the consistency there is, in those areas of kind of discomfort, like I need to ask for more, I need to reveal that I don't know, and maybe a simple kind of concept. It just, as soon as you break through, it sort of dispels and you get way more than you even anticipated, right? So just to kind of be humble and always kind of be prepared for those teaching moments, small, medium, or profound.
So much of that just resonated. I mean, fill your own cup, take care of yourself so you can show up to others, honor your commitment, and then be true to yourself and honest, right? I think that, too, people will respect you more if you say, I don't know, can you explain more, versus just pretending to know, and then they find out maybe that you don't. So,
and I've done that too. I have done that, where you sort of pretend to carry on and as if you understand what the conversation is about. And, people can tell that, right? Just as you can tell that if somebody doesn't understand what you're talking about, or just seems like they're not really locked in, the reverse is true. The person on the other side absolutely can tell that you don't get it. And so what's way more engaging and sort of a relief, but even more valuable, is what can happen when you just sort of reveal that, hey, I don't really understand what that means in the context of our conversation. I mean, you can kind of skirt around the issues that I don't get it. You don't have to say that, but I don't really. Could you tell me more? Just not sure I get that meaning. Shape the ask, but just look for that opening. And almost 9 times out of 10, you get way more than you could have possibly imagined.
Sure, absolutely. And then just the education piece, right? Like learning from that person.
Yep.
So I know we were talking a lot about mentors. So give us a little bit, maybe a favorite mentor of yours, something that they taught you. Give us a story.
Sure. Well, my most recent example is from a previous role at a previous company, this gentleman who saw the ability for me to originate. I'd always been in business development, and so sort of working behind the scenes to support the salespeople, and by salespeople, I mean sales guys, in origination. And so he just said, what do you have to lose? I know you can do it. And he was right. And so he gave me that opportunity. Obviously, I'd worked really hard and I demonstrated that I get the business. I understand kind of what the value props are, et cetera. But that was huge. I will also say, in reading these questions before we got on today, some of my biggest mentors have actually been people who, the circumstances were not ideal or caustic. Right. So I learned a great deal from those people, extremely bright individuals, and I think very effective in their roles, but just not the way in which I would want to manage people. And that's a huge resource in any company or organization. Yes. They taught me a lot about who I am and what sort of values I really hold near and dear. So that's kind of the other side of that question. You probably don't hear that type of response, but those two individuals taught me an enormous amount about where I want to go.
Just having that confidence and moving you forward. And I love the opposite. I actually was just talking to someone about this last night, and you do have role models that do the opposite. It's, I don't want to do that, and I'm still learning. So appreciate just every opportunity wherever you're at is one to learn. So I really like that. Now, this being the Women of Influence podcast series as well, I want you to explain a little bit more about maybe some initiatives specifically geared towards women that you're a part of. I know you mentioned Crew, or just things that you like to do to lift women up.
Sure. So Crew was a very meaningful segment of my early commercial real estate career. So when I switched over, I thought, okay, what industry associations do I want to be part of? Crew naturally was a great fit. I was on the programs committee for about a year and a half and worked with some incredible women in the Bay Area where I am headquartered, and then realized that, part of giving back and being involved in industry associations is there has to be sort of a return on investment in terms of, how is this building my network, my career, my deals flow. It really does boil down to that. And so I found that NAIOP is really the best fit for me right now. So I sort of switched over and pivoted to NAIOP and became very involved in committees, programs committee, marketing communications, and working with women there, sort of with the same philosophy of Crew, right? Lifting women up in a male-dominated space, and even with the focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion, being more tactical in that there are very active, very effective women in NAIOP, sort of doing the work of lifting women up by simply taking on those leadership roles and doing the work, and also in their own professions, being heads of debt and structured finance teams, being originators, being brokers. So really connecting with those ladies really closely and really quickly, and working together to kind of build our networks and our business platforms together has been very, very meaningful.
That's awesome. And I encourage all of our listeners to get involved in these organizations and definitely do the networking because, it really is about that. So shifting a little bit into multifamily, obviously I want to get your insights into current trends. Give us an overview of trends that you're seeing in the multifamily space right now or commercial real estate in general.
Sure. So our financing is fixed rate, long-term financing for construction of commercial real estate, so including multifamily. We do new development, we do big renovations or repositioning of large assets, and we also do recapitalization of assets that have been recently completed or even partially completed that need liquidity, either to pay down debt or to establish reserves, et cetera. In multifamily, of course, this is sort of the darling of the ball, if you will, that and data centers and industrial. We just came back from a NAIOP conference where that was all the talk. But multifamily is certainly one of those asset classes that is still showing a lot of viability in most markets throughout the U.S. where we operate, including the Bay Area, right, which has been really burdened with some of the office vacancies and some of those issues, even life science. So multifamily has been a great fit for C-PACE financing. And one of the things that PACE has done over the last few years is evolve its prepayment structure. So agencies don't normally agree with C-PACE financing, and by agree, I mean they won't consent to allowing PACE on projects for multifamily for permanent debt. And so C-PACE has been able to change the prepayment structure. So there's a prepayment option that's really structured well for the exit strategy for permanent financing. And that's been an evolution in our industry, which has paired really well for multifamily. So we're also working with bridge programs to help kind of offer multi-tiered solutions for multifamily developments, either new or, like I said, renovations, conversions, right? There's a lot of conversion talk. PACE works great for that. And then, of course, the recapitalization where there's a liquidity event needed.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for that overview. Now, not to put you on the spot, but I know that you did suggest a couple of different things. So if you had a crystal ball, tell us what your thoughts are for the short term and then long term of this industry, CRE in general, asset of multifamily. Give it to us.
Sure. I see the next year or two, at least with our industry, being stronger than ever. We're, of course, always tied to the health and viability and completeness of a capital stack in most cases. So we're kind of dependent on that senior debt piece, the equity piece as well. So we can't operate independent of those. But all signs show that the markets are looking better in the coming year. And really, that's agnostic for most geographies for the multifamily asset class, not so much the other asset classes in real estate. But I things are looking good. And our rates are very competitive, oftentimes pricing below senior. And so the future looks very bright for CPACE and multifamily.
Okay, amazing. Love to hear that. Any technology that you use day to day, or any innovation in technology that you're excited about?
We use it's software, but we use RCA data to identify projects that have loans coming due. Mm-hmm. Those are perfect target customers for us. We also use that to identify very active lenders in a geography and developers in a particular geography. We also use Green Street. We use a whole number of contact database software. We're trying to figure out how to use AI to help us. Mm-hmm. And outside of creating really lengthy and colorful first drafts, I'm not sure that it's the best fit for our company size right now, but I know that there's a fit down the road. We're looking for some more interns to come in possibly this fall to help us try to figure that out, because we know that there's great efficiencies there to be had, but we just need to figure out, okay, who's going to do the work to right size it for our firm. So
sure.
Yeah.
Well, anyone looking for maybe a job or any, internships,
yes,
definitely we'll hit you up.
Yes.
And a little Crexi plug, of course, we have all of that data. So I'm going to show you that after this.
Okay, good. Perfect. Then it's going to be me.
We'll get you there. Don't worry.
Okay.
I know that you are very busy, so thanks for sitting down with us. One last question before we let you go. You've given us a lot of insight and a lot of advice today, but give our listeners one bit of advice maybe that you would have loved to have as a younger woman in commercial real estate, in the industry, just in general, or anything else that you want to share.
Sure. Yeah, thinking about the questions that you shared ahead of time, the biggest headwind I think can often be yourself. And it's hard to find somebody in their 20s or 30s that they are out there, and boy, do I support them, but that hasn't learned the hard lessons to know that you're way stronger than you think you are. You can get through just about anything. And, the biggest headwind is your belief in yourself. And if you can change that narrative, and guess what? You can reset it at any time. It doesn't have to start in a week or in a day or tonight. It can start like right now. Yep. If you can do that, you're limitless. I mean, and so I kind of wish I had that insight, again, when I was 25, but at least I have it now, right? So I try to remind myself of that, and I try to emulate that so that younger women in the industry, or really anywhere, can sort of, look to that light, right? And make it happen sooner than later.
Yes, I love that. Such important things. I mean, resilience, you are so much stronger than you think you are. And just the reinventing yourself too. It's never too late. Yep. People, we're coming up almost on the new year, right? You don't have to wait for a New Year's resolution.
Right.
It's every hour is a potential, opportunity to do something different. So really, really amazing stuff. Thank you so much for sitting down with us today. If people want to get in touch, how can they get in touch with you?
You can visit our website, greenrockhc.com, and you can look me up on LinkedIn as well. I'm very active on LinkedIn. That's another amazing tool. And I don't do any other social media, so it's pretty funny because I'm shameless when it comes to LinkedIn. And it's pretty easy. You just put pictures up and write a few words, and there you go. So very active on LinkedIn, and I love that resource. So hope to make some new connections.
Absolutely. Well, Emily, thank you so much for joining us. We really, really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Of course. And thank you all for everyone who tuned in today. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure not to miss the next one. Visit Crexi.com/podcast and sign up to get the next episode delivered straight to your inbox. Of course, you can also subscribe to the Crexi Podcast on your favorite podcast app and check out our YouTube channel for video recordings of each episode. Take care and be sure to tune in next time.